Hey there guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another session of our tutorial about AutoCAD. I hope that so far this course has been beneficial for you and you have practiced everything completely up to now. Alright, now as you recall, at the end of the previous session we mentioned that in this session we are going to talk about layouts. Guys, as I said before, layouts are very important in our work. For example, when we want to work on a huge project, they can help us to create sheets with different scales very fast and very easily. Now, to mention some of the things that we're going to talk about today, first, we're going to talk about layouts completely. Then we're going to talk about the difference of scale in model and in layout. Model would be those plans and sketches that you draw in AutoCAD. How to adjust the viewport and the workspace when we are working on layouts. How to create views, several views, and then how to use them in layouts for creating different sheets. And at the end, we're going to see how we can print out our work perfectly. Okay guys, let's go ahead and start today's session. Before we start guys, I need to mention this again. Today's topic is very important, so you need to pay attention completely. You can take notes if you want to. Remember, you can use these layouts to create sheets easily. As I mentioned in a previous session, you should have created your sheets separately with different scales, with several scales, and this works actually. But when your projects get bigger and bigger, this method could become a little bit difficult and very time consuming. But today we are going to see how we can use layouts to do all of these easily. Creating sheets would be easier, and you can create one with several scales as well. Then you can easily print it out. Okay guys, let's start. First, let's see what is a layout. If you pay attention here, this space, this environment that we are currently working in is our modeling space. I mean, this workspace that we can use the commands and techniques that we learned so far to draw everything we want in it. But if you take a look at your toolbar down here, we have some tabs. First tab says model, which as I said, it's our current viewport. It's our current workspace. And other tabs are the layouts that we can create. Now, by default, your software has two already, layout 1 and layout 2. And if you click on this plus here, you can create a new layout. As you can see, we have layout 3 now. And you can go ahead and create as much layouts as you want. Okay, let's go back to layout 1 now. So this was the modeling space, and this is layout 1. Now when you open up layout 1, you can see something like a frame or window, you can say. And this is actually your paper. And everything that you want to define as your output, for your output you can say, it would be displayed here. If I want to give you an example, for example, your scales, the scales that you want to use in your output. And what is this blue frame here? If you click on it, we can see we have some grips as well. What is this one? This frame represents the viewport, or you can say your modeling space that we've talked about, and it is set here in your layout space. And we can use this to set all the models, all the sketches that we have drew before in our layout. Alright, now we want to start creating our own view. We want a new view here. As I said, this is a default view of your software, and it is the same in the next layouts as well. So I don't want this, I want to create my own. So I can easily erase this, enter. See? This was our first step. Now, let's go ahead and do a right click on our layout here, and then click on Page Setup Manager. This is a very important window, and you can either open it from here, or you can go to Layout tab up here. Oh, I forgot. This tab, this Layout tab, appear only if you enter layout space. If we go back to our viewport, it would disappear. Okay, so this was another point. Let's go back. We said to open up the page setup manager. We can either go down here or up here, click on layout tab, then click on page setup here. Okay, now let's see what we can do here in this window. First, by default, again, we can see the layout 1 and 2. Now, what we can do here is we can create a new layout out of these two. For example, if you click on layout 1, then new. Now you can set a name for it. For example, you can go with your paper dimensions, A0, for example. And when we click OK, it'll immediately open up page setup layout 1. All right. The layout, which we named A0. It means that your tab is still layout 1. This name is just your paper. And this window contains the settings for your printing. So what we can get from this is that this is kind of like the print setup that we had before, but there are some differences. For example, we're going to leave some things on default, because when we work on layouts, it means that we are past our modeling and we are closer to getting an output. Okay, so in here you can select the name of your printer if you had a particular one in mind, and if you didn't, you can just go with DWG to PDF. Then we need to select the paper size. We said we're going to use A0, so let's find that and select. Then if you take a look at here, plot area is automatically set on layout. Before we had to select window, then create a window, a boundary manually for your printing. But now it'll automatically select your boundary based on your layout. And in this side, we have another important thing to set, which is our scale. Now, if you remember our previous session, we said that first thing that we need to do is to change this from inch to millimeters. For example, to use the scale 100th, we needed to put this on 1000 millimeters, then put this one on 100. So this was what we used to do. But now what should we do? There's a difference. We're not going to change 1000 millimeters, but we're going to change the unit to 1. So in other words, each unit would be 1000 millimeters. This is how you should define your scales in layouts. Now up here, set your plot table style either on AutoCAD, then after opening the editor window, we said we can do two things here. Either select all the colors here, then put this on black, then click on Save Close, or we can select monochrome and automatically print your work black and white. Okay, the next thing that we can talk about is drawing orientation, which controls the location of your plan in your paper. And as we mentioned in a previous session, there should be a correspondency between your sheet orientation and your plan location. So you can either go with portrait or landscape. All right, click on OK. Yes. Set current and close. Now we have a sheet with A0 dimensions, and to make sure of that, we can use a rectangle. And if we draw a rectangle, a schematic rectangle like this, then we can select it and click on this group. We can see that we have a 0 dimensions, but the unit is metric. So as you can see, one of the dimensions are 84 cm and another side length is 1.19 meters. Okay, now we have our paper here. And actually we can expand our sheet a little bit and define some edges, for example. And to do that, we can use an offset like 2 cm or 5 cm. Yeah, 5 cm is better. And we can put it here, for example, interior. I guess it's a little bit too much, so let's change it to 3 cm. Okay. And actually, as we saw in a previous session, we can draw a line here to use as a legend line. And then based on your taste, you can, for example, put an offset here with through and use multiple to create different segments here and put some details and legends here in your plan. And yeah, generally we created a sheet here. Now let's see how we can transfer the drawings that we had in our viewport in here in this sheet. In other words, how we can complete our sheet. To do that, we need to see what items we have up here in Layout tab. So let's see what do we have here and how we can use them. First, we have objects, and if you click here, you can see that we have some subcategory items that we can use. First, we have rectangular, and if we use it, we can transfer our viewport, our drawings that we had in our viewport, in here inside a rectangular boundary. Okay, so this was the first mode of transferring your models into your sheet. Next, we have polygonal. And as you can guess, it kind of works like polyline. You can use it to draw your boundary. For example, a frame like this that I'm drawing here. Okay. Or we can actually change it a little bit more because it is kind of like a rectangle. So let's close it from here. All right. And as you can see, my viewport is transferred here again. Just remember, your boundary should be a one component shape. All right, now the third mode is the object mode. And again, you can use this mode to draw your boundary of the viewport. For example, this circle here. And your drawings would be transferred in this. Now from up here, we can select object, and after that, click here. All right, so this was a circled frame. We can use another command, for example, polygon, I'm sorry. And we can use it to draw a, for example, let's say a pentagon, like this. Okay, and then select object again and click. Okay, so this was how we can create a boundary for our viewport drawings. Now, let's see how we can enter these separate boundaries, separate, you can say, viewports, and do some adjustments, modifications, for example, work on our sheets separately. All right. In order to do that, we can select one of these sheets, one of these boundaries separately, and as soon as we do that, it would be activated. But if we use our mouse scroller, we can see that our whole paper would move. So we can get that we didn't enter the sheet, the boundary completely. But if we do a double click this time and then use our mouse scroller or zoom in and zoom out, we can see that the models inside our boundary would move. And it's like you are working in your viewport. Okay, so this was the difference between how we can select a boundary, a particular boundary in our sheet, and select the main sheet. And to go back, to get out of our boundary, we can just do a click outside our boundary like this. See, just like this. Now let's get inside this one, this viewport. So double click, and let's say this time we want to show this one, this plan. Or let's say in our pentagon this time. Now let's get out of our pentagon. How? Do a double click outside its boundary. And now let's move into the polyline, for example. And let's, for example, zoom in on our section here. All right, so overall, these were the different types of viewports that you can create in your sheets. Let me remove all of this. All right, now let's say I want to set two things in this sheet. Up here, a plan, and down here, a section. To do that, I can go to Insert View. Remember, we don't want to create a separate boundary. We want to select an object in our viewport and put it here. So if we click on Insert View, we immediately enter the viewport. And in here, for example, let's select this plan here. Enter. See, it automatically created some kind of a boundary for me. And the only thing that you need to do is to find a place to set it. Here, for example. Now, we have our plan here in this sheet, but I don't know the scale here. What is the scale of this plan? And another thing, why can't I enter this boundary? Why can't I enter this viewport boundary? Or why the drawings that I have in this viewport don't get, you can say, closer or further when we zoom in and zoom out? Well, the reason behind all of these is that when you use Insert View, it's gonna lock your view boundary. Now, to change this default setting, you can go to your toolbar down here and deactivate this. Selected viewports are locked. Now it is unlocked and you can enter inside it. And guys, when we do a zoom out or zoom in, for example, this number down here would change, as you can see. This is your scale. And it's kind of a weird number. I mean, 0.00, 3946, and so on. Now, I want to change this illogical number, the scale, to a logical one. How can I do that? First, I need to press Ctrl Z to lock my view again, because I want to start again. So now again, I don't know the scale, so let's unlock the viewport first. Now, to set the scale, for example, on 100th, we can click here and we can see all of the scales that we can use in our work. Or inside your sheet, if you click on your viewport line on the, you can say the boundary line here, and in here again, you can change or define the scale of your boundary, of the viewport's boundary. All right, let me give you another important point. Here in your scales, we have another option, custom, and open up edit drawing scales. Then click on reset. But what does this reset do for you? If you're drawing your sketches in a non-metric environment, you can use this option to create a metric output of your work. Right now, we know that we are working with a metric unit because we know that we drew our sketches with a metric unit. But let's say you just got a file and you don't know what unit is used inside it. So to make sure that it is set on metric units, you can click on reset, then select metric scale, and after that click on OK. After that, we can easily unlock our viewport, then click here to change the scale to anything that we want. Okay, something happened here. This is very important, pay attention. If the mouse scroller were on the viewport here, all the scales could get messed up. So let's put this back on 100th, then lock it again. Now, as I was saying, something happened here. The scale that we selected is not working here. So first I need to expand my viewport boundary like this. Okay, after that, again, we can unlock it, then enter it and set it exactly in a place that we want. Then we can change the scale to 100. Okay, now that we're sure, we can lock it. Then we can change the boundary again, like this. All right, now what happened here is that now we have a sheet, and this side, this part of our plan is set in it with a scale of 100th. And by the way, we can use this squared shape grip to move our viewport boundary. And the triangle one was to control the scale. Okay, so this was the plan. Now the section. Again, click on Insert View. And then select your section. Like this. Press Enter now. And put it here. Now again, this is locked. So first we need to unlock it and then put the scale on 100th. And as you can see, it doesn't fit inside our boundary, so we need to expand it like this. And make sure not to move your mouse scroller. Just try to pan your section and move it to the place that you want in your viewport boundary. And after you're done, after you found the place that you want, you can do a double click outside your boundary. Then to make it even better, you can again expand your boundary a little bit more. All right. And at the end, lock it again. Now we have both the plan and the section in 100th scale in the same sheet. And we can actually put them in different sheets and with different scales, but here we just use the same scale and the same sheet. All right, the tags here are correct, but if you wanted to change them, you can enter your viewport boundary, then do a double click on this tag. Then in Attribute Editor window, change the scale to 1/200th, for example. Okay, Control Z. So this way you can modify your objects after you set them in your sheet. Okay, now as you can see, guys, in the plan and in the section as well, some of the dimensions and some of the tags are not displayed. Why? Well, because annotative option is not activated. So if we activate Show Annotation Object from down here, any dimension, any tag, any object overall that is set annotatively would be displayed once more. Where this option is useful, you ask? Well, let me go back to Viewport first. Remember when we were talking about annotatives, for example, for the dimensions in annotation, then in modify, and in here we specified a particular annotation for every object. For example, when we select new, then activate annotative, then every time that you select any scale from here, your object scale in your layout would change accordingly. Okay, to elaborate more on this, if we have the scale 100th, for example here, and the annotative is set on 1, your text scale would be 100th as well. And for the section, if you have 1/200th, for example, your text size would automatically be changed here. So these are all the perks that we have when we use annotative, and we've talked about this before as well. Now to continue our work, we want to create another viewport boundary and put some details inside it. So let me just move this, all right? We have an extra line down here, so let's just minimize the frame a little bit, all right. Okay, so once again, in Layout tab, Insert View, let's select a view somewhere to use as our details. For example, here. We can put a frame here. Enter. If we put it here, as we can see, the frame is too large. Okay, so to solve this problem, first we need to change the scale. it is set on 1/10th, we can change it to 1/20th. Okay, and now the view that we have selected is displayed here completely. And we can actually control how much of that view we want to see here. Like we can minimize the frame like this, then change the scale back to 1/10th, then use the script to move it like this. And this is actually based on you and how you want to present our work, in what order. Okay, what was the scale here again? Yeah, it was 1/10th. I just forgot that, I'm sorry. So overall, this was a sample of a layout, a main sheet containing different objects with different scales. Now let's create another layout using layout 2 to see what other things we can do. And in order to do that, first we need to go to, enter the layout 2. And as you can see, again, it contains your viewport by default. So first we need to erase this. Then we should open up Page Setup Manager. Then click on New. This time, let's say A2. Then in here for the printer, we can go with DWG to PDF again. Then select the A2 paper size with landscape layout. Then in unit scale, put this on 1000 millimeters, 1 unit, then monochrome. Okay, then set current, and at the end, close. And now we have an A2 sheet ready to use. Up here in layout, click on insert view. This time, let's select this plan here, like this. Enter. Put it here. Then we want a 100th scale. Let's see if it fits here in the frame. Okay. And as you can see, it is too large. So we should use something smaller, a smaller scale, for example, 1/200th. But we don't have it here. What should we do? Let's see. Okay, guys, sometimes you might need a scale that you don't have in this list. So you have to create it yourselves. How? First, we need to unlock our viewport. Then in the scale list that we have here, we can click on Custom and enter Edit Drawing Scale window. We have entered this window before when we click Reset and select Metric Scale. Anyway, find the scale 100th here and select it. Then click on Add. Oh, before we start, if you're thinking, why didn't I use Edit to modify the scale? Well, I should tell you that Edit doesn't change the scale. It just changes the name of our item, because the settings for this item are done and locked. To modify the scale completely, I should use Add, then give it a name, 1/200 for example. Then put the paper unit on 1 and drawing unit on 200. And just like this, now we have 1/200th as a scale. So now let's try 1/200th for the view. Okay. And now that we modified our scale, we can do other things. For example, let's move it to another place like this. And then expand the frame a little bit more to display the tag completely. Okay, what else? Alright, we didn't modify the scale in the tag, so let's do a double click on it. Then in here, in Attribute Editor, change this to 1/200th, and okay. But what happened here? I moved the mouse scroller and all of the scales got messed up. So don't forget this. When you set your scale, do a click outside your boundary. Okay, so let's change this back to 1/200th. Then click outside the boundary to lock it. Okay, then click inside your boundary, unlock. Try not to scroll. Just put it inside your boundary. Now we can lock it again. Just like this. Okay, this is the plan, and now let's put the section here as well with a scale of 100th, so that we would have a sheet with two different scales ready for getting an output. So once again, in Insert View, select your section like this, enter, set it here. Now let's set the scale on 100th. Okay. It's too large, doesn't fit here. Control Z. Let me just try one more time to make sure. 100th. Yeah, it doesn't fit. So we can put it on 1/200. Yeah, 200th is okay. Let's enter the section here. Okay, guys, the point that we can talk about here is, let's say that this tag here wasn't an attribute. Let's say that it was just a simple text. Now, what do you think we could do to, you can say, create some kind of a formula so that our scale would be set here automatically? Now, if you have watched our previous sessions, you might have remembered some kind of a trick that we used for these situations. So, what do you think we should do? We should use the field command. Type down the command. Okay, now in this window, put the field category on object. This one on object as well. And then in here, oh, I forgot this. Remember, guys, when we are working on viewport frame, we can't use field because we want our scales to be set based on our viewport window. So first, we need to close down the command, then click outside the frame so that we would be able to select it in field. Then activate your command, object, object again, select object, viewport. Then in here, select custom scale and use scale name afterwards. And when we click OK, it'll automatically shows the scale. It's just too large. We need to change its size. Like this. Then move it up here. We can actually make it a little bit more smaller. Yeah, this is better. So this is another technique that you can use if you didn't have an attribute. And about this gray background that we have here, it shows that you have set a formula for your scale. And we have actually talked about this before. This color won't be displayed when you print out your work. And overall, this is a very easy and effective technique. We can type down field again. Then select your object again, for example, this frame. Custom scale. Okay. And yeah, here we go. Oh, both of the scales here are 1/200th. I forgot this. Don't worry about this. We can easily modify everything. And it's a good thing that we actually saw this. So if you remember, we were supposed to create a sheet with two different scales, 1/200th and 100th. And again, as you remember, they weren't fit in this sheet, so we have to modify the sheet itself. How? We can enter Page Setup Manager window, and in here change the size of our paper from A2 to A1. Okay, let's see if we need to change the rest of the settings. No, we don't. So, okay, this end. Then we can select A2. We have to change the name as well. So we can do this later as well. So we can click on Set Current. Let me do this again. A1. Now it says some of the things are modified. Do you want to update it? Yeah, we want that. Now click on set current, close. Now our sheet size is changed. Now we can easily select this plan, for example, move it up here, the section as well. Then, as we said, we want our section to have a scale of 100th. Okay, and after that, we can again use the field command. Select the object, custom scale, okay. Here we go. Now change the size, move it up here. Again, we can make it a little bit smaller. And by the way, don't forget guys, this is a technique that you can use when you haven't used an attribute. Okay, as you can see, again, some of the dimensions are not displayed. What was the reason? The reason was that show annotation object is off. When we turn it on, everything would be displayed here completely. And now we have successfully created a sheet containing two different items with two different scales. One of the scales is 1/200th and another one is 100th. Before we learned about layouts, we had to create a separate sheet for each scale, but now we can just use one sheet for all of them. And as I said before, this would be very useful when you're working on a large project. Okay, now that we have the layouts, let's type down Ctrl P, or let's actually do this for the first layout. Now, Ctrl P. Now check the settings here. Yeah, everything seems all right. Let me just check it in a preview. As you can see, all the drawings are displayed here in black and white. And what was the reason for these items here not being displayed in black and white? Because their color were combined colors. Now you can easily set a path and save your output. Now for the second layout, again, Ctrl P, then settings are okay, preview, yeah, all good. Okay, let's go ahead and work on another example to make sure that we have covered everything about layouts. All right, as you can see, I have some plans here and I want to do something so that I'd be able to transfer any of these plans that I want in my layout with just one click. Okay, first of all, let's say I want my sheets to be A3. So let's draw a rectangle here. Now, what are the dimensions for A3 sheets? We have 42 by 29.7. All right. Let's see if it fits here. Yeah. Now let's get a copy of this. And let's check the section. No, the section doesn't fit here. But I want all of the items to be fit in A3. So first, I need to create a match line here. Then mirror this sheet to the other side based on this line. Now half of the section would be printed out in one sheet and the other half would be printed out in another one. Now remember, this happened because we wanted to use an A3 sheet. If we were to use A1 or A2, we didn't have this problem in the first place. All right. Now we can get another copy, I guess. Yeah, we can get another copy and put it here. And what else? Yeah, I guess this is enough for now. Yeah. So what I did is I created four views based on A3 sheet dimensions. Now we can go up here in View tab and we have some items that we can talk about. First, from viewport configuration, we can select some of these, you can say, designed viewports to use. For example, let's go with 2 verticals. And this way, your viewport, your workspace would be separate it in half, and in one half you can, for example, use a view, and you can put the other half, for example, on a plan. And this way you'll be able to control the correspondency between your view and your plan. Or we can go with another version, for example, 4 equal. And as you can get from the name, your viewport would be split in 4 equal segments. You can up here select tile horizontally, and you'll have several, you can say, horizontal windows to use. So this was tile horizontally, and we said it creates several horizontal windows, or you can actually use tile vertically. Same thing, but vertical. And these are actually based on your taste and the region that you want to have of your viewport. All right, let me just put this back on single. All right, so now let's start creating some new views. To do that, we need to click on new view up here. Then after opening new view window, we need to choose a name. For example, here we have double D view. So we can type down elevation DD. All right, now click on this icon here, then select this view here, then press enter, and now we have a new view. So we can click OK and close this. Okay, again, new view, this time section AA1, because this is the first half. Okay, now again click on this icon and then select your view, enter, and OK. New view again, section AA2. Click on this icon, select the view, enter, and OK. And now for the last view, section B, select the view, enter, OK. All right, we just defined 4 views. Okay, now go to your layout, and as you remember, we needed to erase this default sheet that we have here. Now to start the settings again, we need to go to Page Setup Manager, click on New, and let's go with A0, a large sheet. Now in here, okay, first let me find the printer, DWG to PDF, then paper size, A0. Now for the scale, again, 1000 millimeters and 1 unit. Then select monochrome for having a black and white output, and OK. So this is my sheet that I'm going to use for transferring the views. First, let me just transfer this other sheet inside this one. We need to check the dimensions. OK. Now select it. Control C. Let's see if the scales are OK. No, the sheet is enormous. So let's go back and change the scale. Again, let me check the dimensions. Here we have 84.10. This should be 84 cm. So SC, and then select the side length, and let's say we want 84. Yeah, actually 84 cm is okay. Okay, now that it got smaller, let's select it again. Control C, and let's go to the layouts. Control V. This is my sheet. actually we can reduce the size a little bit more. Okay, what we get from here is that you can actually choose your paper, then copy a sheet inside it and modify the sheet afterwards. For example, let's select the sheet here, then SC with reference and put it here. And overall, now I have a sheet, complete sheet, ready for my work. Now, let's see how we can transfer those views that we created in here. Okay, so if we go to Layout tab, then Insert View, we can see that all the views that we have created are displayed here. So I can just select them and set them inside my sheet. Okay, let's set the scale as well, 100th. Okay, so this is my first view here, a section with a scale of 100th, and it's locked in my view, in my sheet, I'm sorry. Now again, insert view, this time this view. And what is this one? It's the first half of our section that wouldn't fit inside A3 sheet. This actually happens a lot. For example, if I were to set this plan inside A3 sheet, I had to create 4 different views. Okay. And here, if you take a look at in this section, this line is called match line. And you can actually put a tag for it as well, so that when you print out your work, you'll know what this line does. All right, let's go back to our layout. Next view. Now the second half of our section, put it here, and then we can attach them like this. Now remember, all of my views are set in an A3 sheet separately, and all of them are set in a main A0 one. And you can actually create a separate layout for each view using A3 sheet. So this was another point that I had to mention. Now the last item, again, insert view, this item here, and set. Okay, now again, click on new view. Let's choose another view because I don't want to use the already selected ones. For example, let's find a section or a plan that I want to see more in detail. Here, I guess it's okay. Yeah, enter. We can set it here. Yeah, it's too large. The scale here is 1/20th. Let's change it to 1/30 and move it a little bit upwards. Now, Control P, the settings are okay. Let's check the preview. And yeah, here we go. We have an A0 sheet containing views set in A3 sheets. And we can actually create separate outputs of these views in A3 sheet as well. Now, if you take a look at your preview, we can see that the viewport frame is displayed here as well. Let's see how we can get rid of this. So let's close this and go back to the layout. In Home tab, type down LA, enter. Let's create a new layer called Hide. Okay, and then we can turn off the printer so that when we print out our work, everything that is drawn in this layer won't be displayed. And for the color, we can go with this dark gray, for example. Okay, let's go back to layout and select all of the viewport frames, then put them in hide layer here. Now let's type down Ctrl P again, then check the preview, and yeah, all of the viewport frames are gone. So this is a very important point that you need to consider before present your work. Okay, now to get a printout of this output, we can save it in our desktop, just like this. Okay, now we have a PDF file containing our outputs and all of the views and details that we set in it. And by the way, it's opened in Acrobat Reader. Okay, let's actually go back here and change the name of our layout. So rename, and for the new name, we can go, for example, with project dash A0, and then we can add a date, for example. Let's say something like this. Okay, 25th. Yeah. Okay, and another thing that we can do here is to display the name of our layout inside our sheet. And for that, we can again use the field command. Let's see how it works. First in here, select all, then we should find system variable here. Then we need to select C tab, then select title case. And we need to change the title case style. It was set on this Persian font, to change it to standard. Okay. Now again, enter. Okay. And as you can see, that name that we have wrote for the name of our layout is here, and we can display it in our sheet as the title. And it goes down here. So as you can see, the field command could be very practical and useful in a lot of situations. Okay guys, if you had to create a new sheet first, you can create a new layout, then erase this default sheet, then choose an A3 paper, for example, new A3, okay, DWG to PDF, A3, set on landscape, then for the scale, 1000, 1, then monochrome, check in preview, okay, set current, and okay. Now if you want to use the same sheet again, you can go here, select the sheet, copy it, then go back to your layout, Control V, and after that select the entire thing, scale, SC, this is the base point, reference, first point, and second one, and put it here. Okay, and after that we can go to Layout tab again, Insert View, then we can select the section, for example here, with a scale of 100. And as you can see, it fits perfectly inside the sheet. Let's move this a little bit. And at the end, we can put the viewport frame inside hide layer to make it invisible inside our print. Now, if we go ahead and check the preview of this output of this sheet, here we go, and you can continue creating separate sheets after this as well. And by the way, don't forget this, guys. This is a very important point. Always try to specify an edge for your, you can say, for your view when you set it inside your sheet. You can use offset, for example, like 2 cm, so that the printer would recognize it. Okay, everyone, we are done with our session about layouts. Don't forget to practice everything, because layouts are very important, practical, and useful things in our field of work. And I think we have covered all of the important things about them. So try to use them in your work. All right. As always, hope you have enjoyed our session. I'll see you in the next one, and good luck.